Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to another episode of Unsolved. You know my name, you know the game. Why are we here tonight? Well, a particular episode that I had to look into because I wasn't familiar with the gentleman that I'm about to discuss, nor his mystery, the mystery behind him. Tonight's episode will be on the mysterious disappearance of one Owen Parfitt. Perhaps you've heard of this. I have not. I've completely been in the dark on this. But this case goes back all the way, are you ready for this? To 1763. That's before fucking United States independence. 1776. That was before we had a freaking president. 1763, this case goes back. So obviously it's a little bit of a folklore tale, a little bit of a legend, a little bit of a myth, as you would expect. Yeah. So over 200 years old. I don't have my usual website that I use, but we're going to use several. So by several, I mean maybe three tops. First off, I'm going to read from Reddit. I know, I'm not sure how legit this is, but we're going to take a dive into Reddit. Without further ado, the disappearance of Owen Parfitt. Owen Parfitt had lived a wild life by anybody's standards. He told tales of his youth that featured piracy and great battles of numerous women. Most people were skeptical of his stories, and he undoubtedly knew that, but it didn't stop him from counting his glory days nonetheless. By the 1760s, Owen was in his 60s, and people had said his wild living had caught up with him. He was now a virtual cripple, living with his elderly in Shepton Mallet, a town in South England. Okay, so it's English, apparently. Or at least he lived in England. For a man who was used to moving freely from one adventure to another, the paralysis must have come as a heavy burden. The disappearance of Owen Parfitt is one of the biggest mysteries of Shepton Mallet. He would have one final adventure that would capture the attention of Shepton Mallet and neighboring villages. The date is sketchy. Some sources claim that the following took place in June of 1763, while others place it in 1768. So that's a 6-year discrepancy there. How do you get that wrong? Like if it was like one date, 1 year next to the other, I could say okay, but like we're talking a 6-year difference here. That's kind of a big gap. Regardless, we do know that on a warm evening, Owen Parfitt wanted to sit outside. Due to his virtual immobility, he needed the assistance of his sister and a neighbor to carry him out into a chair on the front porch. So just an elderly man just wanting to enjoy a nice sunny evening on his porch. Perhaps he had lemonade, who knows? When his sister returned into the house, Owen was sitting placidly in a chair. Across the road, a very short distance away, several farm workers were laboring within easy earshot of Owen. Certainly, if someone had approached him where he sat on the porch, somebody would have seen something. Nobody saw a thing. A storm was coming that evening, and so Owen's sister came out onto the porch to bring him back inside, but he was no longer in the chair. Knowing that he could not have moved anywhere by himself, she asked the farm workers if they had seen someone come get him, but none of them had. Panicking, the sister enlisted the help of the farm workers and the neighbors to search the area. It wasn't possible Owen could have left on his own, so it seemed he would easily be found. Impossibly, they never found a trace of the crippled man. Over time, neighbors passed along tales about what had happened to him, including that he had been taken by the devil, or that pirates had carried him off in order to get him to tell the location of buried treasure. Owen's incredible disappearance was never solved and became a popular piece of local lore. The story would fade but become local news again in 1813 when some routine construction in Shepton Mallet unearthed the human skeleton. Everybody jumped to the conclusion that it must be Owen's remains, and theories were put forward as to how Owen's body had come to such an undignified end. The medical community nipped the gossip in the bud, however, when it was stated that the skeleton was that of a young female. Another episode of construction in the area in 1933 shed new light on Owen's fate. He remains one of southwest England's most intriguing mysteries. So, in a nutshell, this one's pretty straightforward. A man in his 60s who's a cripple, has paralysis, he can't move on his own. Just sitting out on his porch on a nice sunny day. His elderly sister goes inside. There's farm workers within an earshot near him. Sister comes back. And he's gone. Not a trace of him to be found. The farm workers, who are supposedly an earshot from him, didn't see or hear anything. Where the hell did he go? Where the hell did he go? Just trying to find the rest of it. I don't know if that was it. Okay, that's super misleading. That was super misleading. Holy crap. Now we're going to look into Tumblr. Yeah, Tumblr as a research source. How about that? Or maybe we're not. I hate when ads come up or, do you want to read more? Subscribe here. Like, no. I just want to read the damn article. Can I do that? All right, we're going to go to the Shepton Mallet Nub News. I mean, if anybody knows anything, why not the town where he disappeared 200 years ago? Stop, I don't want to contribute. Okay. The strange case of Owen Parfitt, a man whose disappearance has been shrouded in mystery and legend, remains one of the town's most enduring tales. Delving into newspaper articles from as far back as the 1800s, we uncover the story of a man whose life and vanishing act still captivate the imagination. John Parfitt, Owen's father, lived to the age of 62, surpassing the average life expectancy of the time, which hovered around 37 years for the period between 1650 and 1750. This in itself was notable, but even more so was the longevity of Owen's mother, who lived to an astonishing 97 years, a figure that even today would be considered impressive. Owen, who was 69 at the time of his mysterious vanishing, and his sister Mary, who was in her 80s. Okay, there's a little this. We haven't even gotten to the mystery, but just the ages. Like, can we just talk about this for a minute? First of all, the life expectancy between 1650 and 1750 was 37 years old. I'm 38. So, yeah. That's weird. Owen's a cripple. His his elderly sister. I remember saying she was elderly, but she's in her 80s. She has tripled, quadrupled the life expectancy. He's tripled it, and she's apparently in her 80s and clearly coherent, well off, taking care of him. On a warm June day in 1768, Parfitt was placed outside his home to enjoy a sunshine, a routine that would lead to an inexplicable mystery. Despite being in close proximity to his sister, Parfitt vanished without a trace, leaving nothing leaving behind nothing but an empty chair and unanswered questions. The sudden disappearance of a man incapable of walking sparked a search that would yield no clues to his fate. Over the years, the story of Owen Parfitt has taken on various forms, with some accounts suggesting changes in weather or differing details about who was present that day. The earliest newspaper account, dating back to 1789, suggests Parfitt was briefly left alone, only to disappear in the broad daylight. Despite exhaustive searches by the townsfolk and authorities, no trace of Parfitt was ever found. Theories and legends. Speculation abounds as to what became of Owen Parfitt. The most plausible explanation is abduction by an unknown assailant, possibly motivated by past grievances. However, the lack of evidence and the sheer improbability of a silent abduction raises doubts. Other theories suggest an elaborate ruse by the Parfitt to escape his life, though his physical condition makes this unlikely. Then there's the supernatural explanation, fueled by Parfitt's sister, that he was taken by the devil, a theory immortalized by the storm that followed his disappearance. A legacy of mystery. The disappearance of Owen Parfitt remains one of Shepton Mallet's most compelling unsolved mysteries. Beyond the speculation and urban legends, it underscores the enduring human fascination with the unexplained. Parfitt's story, rooted in a rich tapestry of local history, continues to inspire curiosity and debate, and a testament to the mystery's lasting allure. As Shepton Mallet moves forward, the legend of Owen Parfitt endures, a reminder of the town's mysterious past and the enduring appeal of a good mystery. So, so yeah, I imagine all the articles are the same. So, this is what we have. It's just like I told you the first time. He's a 69-year-old cripple. He lives with his elderly sister who's in her 80s. But apparently she's more well off than him, despite being 20 years older than him, and she takes care of him because he's a cripple. There are farm workers within an earshot. So let's just say he's on his porch and they're probably like on the street or on the road, right? Because they didn't have streets back then, but let's call it the dirt road. So they're just doing their own farm work, whatever. And she goes inside for a moment to do whatever. When she comes back, Owen Parfitt, her brother, is gone. Not a trace of him. She gets the help of the farmers. She gets the help of the neighbors. She gets the help of townfolk. Nobody can find him anywhere. And he's a cripple. So we already know that he couldn't have possibly walked off on his own volition. That's literally it. Now we have theories. There are a couple theories that were in both articles, right? One, it was suggested that silent assailants took him, such as the people from his past. So if he was a pirate like he said he was, then pirates came back and they kidnapped him so that he could lead them to where the treasure supposedly was. Theory 2, he was taken by the devil. Okay. Those are the two theories. I have a couple more. Okay? I have a couple more. First of all, both articles say that the farm workers and the neighbors and the sister, obviously, search for him. Now, obviously, given his state, he's a crippled He's a crippled man. So in the 1760s, they didn't have cars. So that adds another layer to this. Did they have horse-drawn carriages? Yes. But even then, obviously, the people who are, you're going to hear a horse-drawn carriage in 1763 pulling up. You know what I mean? If someone were to take him, they couldn't possibly have gotten far, right? Because again, how many farm workers are outside the residence? How many neighbors and townfolk are looking for him? My point is, if someone took him, they either have to find a spot to hide him, like someone else's house, and they're hiding him down somewhere, or there's just no way they could have taken him and just run down the road with him. Like, first of all, why would you do that? Like, you're going to be seen, you're going to be caught, right? So here are my theories. For the first time ever, perhaps. 3 new theories. Well, I say 3, but here are some brand new theories as to how I personally think Owen Parfitt disappeared. With the last one being the biggest twist of all. My first theory, number 1, as stupid as it may be, I just said it. Maybe it was a silent assailant, right? Maybe someone took him off his porch, covered his mouth, and just ran him right down the street, right down the road, right down the dirt road, never to be seen again. I know that seems far-fetched. I know that seems stupid, but given the fact that there's only 2 other theories, I have to branch off of one of them. So it's a silent assailant, then let's just assume it's that. But how do you account for the farm workers not seeing him? Theory number 2. Maybe the farm workers took him. Maybe they took him and they hid him somewhere. Or that doesn't really make sense because they were helping look for him. But maybe if they put him somewhere on the farm, right, or wherever, they could have put him somewhere. They could have hid his body. They could have pretended to look over there where they hid the body while everyone else is searching all around and they never found him. And then when it's time and everyone stops searching, they pick up his body and they relocate it somewhere else. Right? Doesn't seem that far-fetched. Theory 3, maybe somebody in the area who also lived in a house took him and hid them down in their basement, in their home, because they didn't like him for whatever reason. Maybe they had a grudge with him. I'd say theory 4 could be the sister, but we already know that's not the case here. Theory number 4, which is my last theory, and I don't think it has to do with the devil. Theory number 4 is, I think that, call me crazy, but what if Owen Parfitt wasn't a cripple at all? What if he was a lot more healthier and able to walk, to run on his own than people knew, than people could ever have imagined? What if Owen Parfitt escaped it all by hiding, by pretending that he was a cripple? And just like Forrest Gump, just one day he got up and he felt like running. Is it really that hard to believe? Because again, this goes back 200 years. But the thing that is really baffling me here is, what did his sister go in the house for a brief second to make her come out and then realize he was gone? Like, how much time from when she went into the house and out did she realize, like, oh, her brother's gone, where is he? And also, how far away were the farm workers? Because these 2 things are kind of important, and we don't really have concrete evidence as to what they are. We don't know the time frame of the sister when she went in the house and back, and we don't know exactly how far the farm workers are. Now, if the farm workers are hard at their work, doing farm work, and they're so absorbed in their own work that they're not going to notice an elderly man who can't walk getting taken or walking up on his own and just running away, I can I can almost buy that. That kind of makes sense here. But obviously, the time stamp that I'm having a problem with is how long is the sister in the house and how long does she come back? Because you know what I mean? Like, for someone to come to get him, they would have to oh look, they'd have to be scoping out the house. So my fourth theory, which I don't know if anyone's ever brought it up, what if Owen Parfitt wasn't actually a cripple? What if he was pulling a ruse on his sister and everybody else that knew him? You think his tall tales were tall tales? You think the history of his life was one big giant tall tale? But what if the biggest tall tale that he ever told was that he wasn't a cripple at all? And he just got up one day and ran away. Because he was just tired of living that life. And he realized, or maybe he just realized, came across the conclusion, hey, look, I'm not a cripple after all. I can actually walk and be very mobile. I'm just going to get away from this life. I don't need this anymore. I don't want to burden my sister by having to take care of me. She's older than me. Of course, it doesn't explain why there's no trace of him ever in the history of the world ever again. Nobody ever hears from him. Maybe he had that one big giant burst of energy and then maybe he met a sad fate at the end. I don't know. But those are my four theories. What do you think? What do you think happened to the fate of Owen Parfitt? Do you think the devil took him? Do you think it was pirates or somebody else? Do you think it's my theory that maybe the farmers or some neighbor took him and hid him somewhere down in their basement or their home? Or do you think it's my theory that I'm sticking by, which is that he wasn't a cripple at all, and he just got up and walked or ran away, never to be seen or heard from ever again? You won't, but do, of course, let me know in the comments below. Also, if you're new here, feel free to subscribe anytime. That way you will be subscribed anytime I go live. Now, the Owen Parfitt case is just one of several British cases that I will likely be doing in the coming weeks. So, just something I thought I'd throw out there, just to let you know. And of course, do stay tuned next Friday as I will be coming to you with another new episode of Mystery Unsolved. And the case that I will be talking about next week is, drum roll, Justin, James Turford. Who is he? What happened to him? I have no idea. I guess we'll find out together next Friday. For Mystery Unsolved, this is Justin Bienvenu. Have a good